Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bitter Rivals podcast, episode 64. The draft has happened. We have a first overall pick.
Yeah, we do.
I think it's who a lot of people didn't think it was going to be, and I didn't think it was going to be Slafkovsky. I didn't think they'd make that mistake, but they did.
I mean, like, he was Bob McKenzie's projected number one overall pick, right? Like, it's not like the Habs went off the board with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, to me, there is no chance that I was going to take a guy who had 10 points in the regular season playing in his league last year over Shane Wright. Like, that just would never happen for me. I would be very upset if to be honest with you, I'd be very upset if I was a Habs fan after that draft. Especially, even given what happened later in the draft, which we'll get to. I still think that they made a mistake not taking Shane Wright, to be honest with you. I think Shane Wright is I don't think he's going to be generational, but I don't think he's going to be Yakupov either. I get big John Tavares vibes from Shane Wright. Like, that's the player that I can see him being, maybe a little less offensively gifted and a little more defensively aware. That's kind of what I get out of Shane Wright. Out of Slafkovsky, I'm going to be honest with you, I get Patrick Laine vibes. A guy who's probably not going to be there in a couple of years, in my opinion. A guy who really, really shined in international tournaments and probably got inflated a little bit on his draft stock because he was the only one who really could play. Doesn't mean he's a good player. Like, he had two good tournaments, and there was, I believe he had a good Olympics tournament, which there were no NHLers at, 0. And then he had a tournament in the World Championship where he started hot and didn't finish so hot, and there were only 100 NHLers in that tournament. So to me, Slafkovsky was the wrong pick, and they're going to regret it. I'm sure you feel differently because you have to at this point. You don't have a choice.
But... Well, so my biggest thing as a Habs fan right now, or just as a fan in general, is like, we don't watch enough of these players to really be able to scout them, right? We base our scouting off of the actual real scouts. And most real scouts had Slafkovsky going in the top 3 or 5.
Yes.
Right? So, like, yeah. I don't think that everyone going, oh, like, he's just going to be fucking dog shit. Which, and I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but a lot of people have been saying that he's just going to be a bust, he's going to be terrible. It's like, like, most scouts had him as a top 5 pick. Like, you can't say that.
Yeah, but
and that goes for everyone.
As a top 5 pick because of 2 tournaments. What I would be frustrated about from your perspective, and what I would be very concerned about, is he played against men in the Liga, the Finnish league.
Yeah.
And sucked.
Yeah.
He sucked. Like, he wasn't good. In a whole regular season, he wasn't good. But he had 2 good tournaments.
He was a 17-year-old kid. And so, okay, so here's my big piece here, is I'm not a scout. So I'm not going to say
do at 15 in the OHL.
So here's against kids, but here's my thing.
He was also, like, he was 15, and those, like, you know, the OHL, like, there's 20-year-old OHLers.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Let me get my shit out, because then you can roast me for it after. I'm not, a scout. I don't watch enough of these kids. Neither of us do. So I can go back to the Dahlin draft when the Habs had the 3rd overall pick. And I swore by Filip Zadina. I was like, Zadina's our number 3 pick. He's going to be phenomenal. He's going to be great. And we picked Kotkaniemi instead. And I was like, fuck, we fucked it. Fucking blew it. And Zadina in his draft interview said, oh, I'm going to fill the nets of those teams that passed on me. Because I think he went 5 or 6, right? To Detroit?
Yeah.
Where is Zadina right now?
You're making my point for me, because Zadina was a European forward who had a great international tournament and got picked too high because of it. And look where he is now.
So my point on that, my point is that I don't know. And you have to trust the team takes, if a player, if they don't pick Shane Wright, it's because they saw something in Slafkovsky that, they didn't see in Shane Wright. And that's not saying Shane Wright's going to be bad. Well, not at all what I'm saying. I'm going to trust the team of scouts and management that made the pick over, like, me and you, who don't watch any, very, very few junior hockey, don't watch any European hockey, and people on Twitter who do the same, right?
I understand what you're saying, but I think of every example of what is happening with Slafkovsky happening, and they've literally turned out to suck every time. I think of Zadina, right? I think of a guy like Patrick Laine, who you said the Leafs should take over Austin fucking Matthews.
I did.
You did say that. And
But
how did
here-
that turn?
and that proves my point, Abe, is that we as fans, we know fuck all. We really do. Unless you're a pro scout who watches fucking like hockey 365 days a year.
Here's the thing, Gitano, is over the past 2 years, you think these guys have been going to finish games? You think they've been able to go to finish games and watch Slafkovsky play? Seriously?
That's why you have scouts in Europe, Abe.
The story of this draft is the inability to scout these players. That is the story of this draft. Like, that's literally the main story of this, is the fact that there was no ability to scout these players because they barely played. One of them who did play was Juraj Slafkovsky in the Liga, and he sucked. He had 2 good international tournaments. That's all he has done in his entire career that would make him even a top 5 pick.
Okay,
so very good international tournaments.
Do you really think Bob McKenzie puts Juraj Slafkovsky as his #1 draft pick because of 2 drafts? I'm just questioning. Do you really think that Bob McKenzie, one of the best hockey minds in terms of scouting and watching hockey,
okay,
do you
really
think
McKenzie's list doesn't get created by Bob McKenzie? Bob McKenzie's list gets created by the scouts that he interviews, NHL scouts.
Yes. So all of these NHL scouts that all watch hockey 365 days a year, do you think they're all idiots? Is what I'm asking you.
No, but Bob McKenzie himself said that easily could have, because he interviewed 9 scouts and 5 went Slafkovsky, 4 went Wright.
Yeah.
He said if I interview another 9 scouts, 5 would be Wright and 4 would be Slafkovsky. Exactly. That's how tight the margin was. But what I'm telling you is the reason that the only thing that anybody saw out of him, and I'm talking scouts, the only thing anybody saw out of him was 1.5 international tournaments of good hockey play, because he sucked going into the finals of the World Cup. He wasn't good. So, and that wasn't good competition. It's not like he's playing against NHL players. So to me, I don't see how you can make a kid who literally had 10 points in his league this year the #1 overall pick over a guy who's been touted for like 5 years that he's going to be the #1 overall pick. A guy who has been compared to Patrice Bergeron. Like, I don't know. And for the Montreal Canadiens specifically, I think they're really going to regret not having a 1-2 punch of Nick Suzuki and Shane Wright moving forward. I really, really do believe that. Kirby Dach isn't that good. He's a 50-point guy. That's not the 1-2 you. If you could have had Shane Wright, I think you would. I think in a couple of years, when Slafkovsky still hasn't made it over to the AHL, I think you're going to see some regret from your front office. I really do.
This is going to be my piece, like, to put a bow on it, is we could literally do this for fucking 4 or 5 hours, Dave, and we can have this conversation at the beginning of the season, and we can have this conversation in December, and at the All-Star break, and at the end of the season. And there's a chance that he might not even play a game in the NHL next year, and that's fine. He can go. The plan is for him to be in North America, so probably the AHL to start. But like, we're not going to be able to like definitively close this and was Slafkovsky, the pick for like 4 or 5 years. And that's the nature of the draft, right?
I'm going to tell you something. Shane Wright's going to play game 1 for Seattle. For sure.
You really think he's like, I'm not that he's going to be like great or dog shit, but like this is just more of just a general thing for these young players. If they're not going to be Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews and like Alex Ovechkin and Crosby coming into the league, like I look at like Lafreniere. That's kind of what I expect from Shane Wright this year. You know what I mean?
I see a little bit of a higher ceiling than Lafreniere for him, and
in terms of everyone expected Lafreniere to come in and just light it up, and he didn't really. It took him that a season and a bit to kind of get himself going, right? That's kind of what I see from Shane Wright.
If you want the honest truth, I think what Montreal saw, and I can't believe you stray away from a guy like Shane Wright because of this, but what I think happened is Montreal really, really believed that there was going to be a leadership power struggle between Nick Suzuki and Shane Wright, because Shane Wright isn't going to go in there and be your alternate. Shane Wright's your captain. That's the kind of guy that he is. That's just the player and the type of person that he is. You can hear it in the way he talks, the way he carries himself. He's a leader. He's like a Patrice Bergeron, maybe even a little bit more vocal. Like,
I don't think a team can have too much leadership, Ave.
I seriously believe that's what they saw. Montreal, they didn't want competition between Suzuki and Shane Wright, because I think they were scared of what would have happened there. I really believe that's what happened. I could be going off on a tangent, but that's just what I see.
Yeah, I just don't think you can have too many guys in a room like that. I look at like an Olympic team for Team Canada. Fucking like half the team are captains of NHL teams and have to kind of take that lesser role because that's what you do. That's, you want to win as the team, you do that. And if it means you have an A on your jersey or a C on your jersey or you don't have anything on your jersey, that's just, I don't think that's an issue, really.
I know. I just got that kind of feeling out of the Montreal table.
Yeah.
But also, just the fact that Shane Wright also slid to 4 was kind of crazy. It's understandable.
Let's go in order here. So the Habs take Slafkovsky at number 1.
Nemec goes 2.
Nemec goes 2. And so here's the thing: Shane Wright was either going to go number 1 or number 3. He was never going to go number 2 because of let me finish. Projecting it, he was never going to go number 2 because New Jersey has so much kind of young depth in their forward group that they were always going to go a defenseman.
Well, not just forward group; they also have young depth right down the middle. They have Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes, who are 2 first overall picks already, centermen.
Yeah. So I don't think it mattered who Montreal picked. The Devils were always going to go with Nemec.
Yes.
Like, I think that was so. That's why I mean when Shane Wright, if he wasn't going to go number 1, he was going to go number 3.
I could have seen them taking Slafkovsky over Nemec, honestly, just because they don't have any wingers. But
I think Nemec is too good to pass up. If you're already kind of built in the forward end of your depth pool, then Nemec had to be him.
Well, maybe.
The real surprise for me was, and what was more shocking than Shane Wright not being number 1 was Shane Wright not being number 3. The Arizona Coyotes selecting Logan Cooley. I mean, the only thing I can think for them taking Cooley over Wright is they want an American player.
That's exactly what I was about to say, and they've made that very clear that they want to build around American players down there.
Yeah, because and again, Logan Cooley is really good, and
Logan Cooley's a little bit more explosive offensively, and I think they don't need to win a championship right now. They need to entertain the 5,000 fans in the arena.
Hey, shout out the Habs fans when the Arizona Coyotes group came up and thanked their fans watching at their watch party. The fucking Bell Center exploded in laughter.
Yeah,
because they have no fans.
Thanks to our fans back in Arizona, and everybody just starts dying laughing. Yeah, that was money.
Can I just stop us here quick? Can the draft be in Montreal every year? That building
Next year
was
going to be in Nashville, which is actually kind of lit too.
Okay, that's going to be good, but like, I can't remember like the last time the draft was that enjoyable. The crowd was like as into it, booing the fuck out of Gary Bettman, and it was just a really good vibe. And you know how like the awards are always in Vegas? I think the draft should always be in like Montreal, Toronto, like New York, Boston, like fucking like real hockey cities. You know what I mean?
Or Vegas.
Vegas would be good too, but I mean they already get the awards, so fuck them.
Anyway. Moving on.
So after the third pick, Gary Bettman goes to the stage, gets booed, announces 2 trades. So the first one was Alexander Romanov being traded to the New York Islanders for the number 13 pick in the draft. And I'm not going to lie to you, Ave, at this point, I shit my pants because I was like, holy fuck, are the Habs about to make a trade for the 4th overall pick and take Shane Wright? That was my first thought.
That's honestly the first thing I thought was going to happen. I think everybody thought that at first.
Like, because I know I don't like to do hypotheticals, but can you just imagine like all the hype going into the draft of like, oh, like Slafkovsky or Wright, who are the Habs going to take? And then in his first draft as a GM, Ken Hughes gets both.
Yeah, that would have been some Brian Burke picking the Sedins level shit right there.
Yeah. So then immediately after that, the Canadiens flipped that number 13 overall pick, and I believe and the number 66 pick in the draft to Chicago for Kirby Dach. He was 21, centerman, was the 3rd overall pick in 2019, I think it was. 2018 or 2019.
Yeah, something like that.
Which I think is a really good trade. It kind of, we have a lot of young defensemen on the roster and coming through. So if we were going to make a move, it was always going to be a defenseman moving. Unfortunately, it was Romanov. I love him. He was fucking great for us. I always hype him up on here. You fucking are sick of hearing about him. Definitely.
Yeah, I don't hear about him anymore, so.
But yeah, I think Kirby Dach's a good pickup. Still only 21. never really got going in Chicago. A lot of injuries, and they've also been just kind of dog shit. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good trade for us. Unfortunately, you have to give up a piece like Romanov to like get better, but that's how it is. That's how hockey works.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was surprised to see them make that trade and ship out Romanov.
I'm more surprised that the Chicago Blackhawks, in starting their rebuild, traded DeBrincat and Doc.
Yeah, we'll get to that after, though. Let's stick
Yeah.
with the draft for now.
All right. So then number
Because, yes,
4.
we do have to talk about that. But, pardon?
Yeah. I'll say, yeah. Sorry. So then pick number 4 to Seattle was Shane Wright.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be honest with you. That kid has no idea how much he lucked out sliding down to Seattle.
Yeah, like there's some...
That kid has no idea how much he lucked out. So, he was going to have to live in Montreal. He's from Toronto, so I'm going to imagine he's not a Habs fan. First of all.
But hey, at least if he ended up in Montreal, he's playing in a hockey city. Because you look at the other teams around there.
Yeah, no, but now this is something that I heard on Overdrive this week, and it made a lot of sense. Shane Wright has the ability now to go in Seattle, and in 10 years, he could be the franchise's greatest player of all time.
Oh, definitely.
Right? And he probably will be, to be honest with you.
And, unless Ron Francis pulls something nuts off in the summer, like, yeah.
Well, and unless maybe, what's the kid's name? Matty Beniers takes a step, like, that could happen too. But, point being, he's not going to live under the microscope of playing for Montreal.
Yeah.
He gets to basically have his own team now. Like, if you think Shane Wright isn't going to be the captain of the Seattle Kraken by, like, the beginning of next season, you're crazy, because he will be.
All right, you mean, like, not 22, 23, 23,
yeah,
24?
Yeah, okay. Like, he's not going to get the captain for his first NHL game. But
just making sure. When you said next season, like...
No, like, next season. Like, season after this one coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. So... he gets to go. Seattle's a great city. Like, I'm a Seattle sports fan. I'm a Seahawks fan. And the fans there are fantastic. They're fantastic. The fans in Seattle are awesome. He was just I'm on the Blue Jays before the Jays game started because they're playing in Seattle. So he was on. And he actually was asked, were you like death staring the Habs table? And he goes, no, I was just looking at the camera and it happened to be right behind it. I was like, yeah, you're lying. You're lying through your teeth right now because somebody told you to be more professional than that.
And just on the hockey aspect, you look at the kind of teams around there. So you got New Jersey and Arizona, and then after the Kraken was Philadelphia and Columbus. So I mean, like, if you just add
I think it was guaranteed that if he was there at 4, Ronnie Francis was going to take him. Like, Ronnie Francis is such a good mentor for that kid.
For sure. But I'm saying like
Ronnie Francis.
If any hockey player wants to play on one of those 5 teams, Seattle's the number 1 pick, and it's not close.
Yeah.
So he really, really lucked out there.
Yeah, and I think staying away from Montreal is probably going to be good for him too. I really do believe that. He's going to have a chance to develop without being put under the microscope. Like,
well, I mean, you could say that for like any of like the major markets: Montreal, Toronto, Boston, and New York.
Well, yeah, and Montreal is just a shitty city, so that
great city.
Yeah, well,
hey, I never chirped the city of Toronto, just your shit organization.
Yeah, it's because it's a good city.
That is an alright city.
Toronto's one of the best cities literally in the world, but it's just expensive. That's the only problem with Toronto. Anyway, yeah, so good. Honestly, I think in a year or two from now, he is going to say, "Thank the Lord I didn't go number 1." And I also, like I mentioned earlier, I think he's going to be going in a couple of years from now, going, man, where's that Uri kid? Is he still here?
Here's the thing. It was like anything could fucking happen. Literally anything could fucking happen.
Well, just one more thing, and I sent this to the group chat, and I forget the actual. Here it is. So it looks like a JFresh screenshot. JFresh.
Yeah.
We love JFresh. He has Shane Wright as having a 97% chance of becoming an NHL star and a 99% chance of becoming an NHL regular.
Yeah.
He has Juraj Slafkovsky had a 23% chance of becoming an NHL regular and a 3% chance of becoming a star in the league.
Okay.
That's
so
I just
here's the thing. I love Jay Fresh and his advanced stats, but advanced stats are not everything. They just
They're
aren't.
not everything,
you can't.
But they give you a pretty clear story, and then you also couple that with the fact
But
that
they don't though.
Pardon?
They don't. Not always. Sometimes they don't. Because Arturi Lehkonen last year was statistically the worst Montreal Canadian by Jay Fresh's models. He was the worst.
Okay.
But it wasn't because Arturi Lehkonen is shit. Because the team was shit, and that's his role is a lot of penalty killing and playing a lot of the top guys, right? Colorado still paid, a high prospect and a second-round pick for him, and he went and basically won them a Stanley Cup. So that's why I say advanced stats aren't.
Cup, but okay.
He scored the goal that sent them to the final and the cup-winning goal. So I'm gonna say he won him a Stanley Cup.
Well, that's two goals out of how many?
I mean, he scored the two biggest. But he was
okay. Anyway,
he was a big part of their cup run. You can't deny.
You realize that Colorado was up 3-0 against Edmonton. Excuse me. Colorado was up 3-0 against Edmonton. Like, if they lose that game, they have 3 more chances to win.
Still, my point on Lehkonen stands that if you had looked at the who the Colorado should trade for at the deadline, you would not have picked Arturi Lehkonen if you just based it off advanced stats.
No, but I understand that. It helps tell the full story. It doesn't tell the full story. I understand that. It just helps. And to me, the story for me was already that they should take Shane Wright because Slafkovsky's unproven. He literally had a good tournament and a half of a good tournament. That is it. International tournaments against non-NHL competition. And then what does it for me is then after I see what I see, I go look at the advanced stats to see if they support it. And in this case, they big time do. That's all I'm saying.
And so my thing is that NHL scouts are also looking at advanced stats. Obviously, they're not that stupid, and they still enough NHL scouts, like Bob McKenzie said, he interviewed 9, 5 went Slafkovsky, 4 went Wright. Those 5 scouts still went, Slafkovsky should be the number 1 pick. We would take him number 1, and I can't, not take that into consideration. You know what I mean? Like the people who get paid their literal living is scouting players and watching players said, this kid is the number 1 pick. Like there's obviously something that they are seeing, whether it's on the ice, whether it's off the ice.
The other thing when it comes to advanced analytics from a guy out of the OHL or Russia or Finland or any of those places is I don't think they're as accurate. I just, because how are you going to, like, you're telling me that there's somebody at every Liga game counting like zone entries, like, and how many times Juraj Slafkovsky made a successful zone entry, or the amount of times that he gave it away. Like, I don't think that's, the statistics definitely aren't as good for any league other than the NHL as they are for the NHL. Like, the NHL's ability to track statistics to put into these models.
Well, I would say even like the CHL and probably the U.S. National Development Program is probably equivalent, or like if not equivalent, like right underneath. Like because
I'm going to imagine Liga doesn't have that kind of setup. But so exactly what you're saying though, if the CHL does have those metrics, which like you said, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Shane Wright has a 97% chance to become a star in the league.
No,
he's also a centerman and a great leader. Has Juraj Slafkovsky showed you at all that he can lead anybody into anything? Because I haven't seen that from the kid.
Bro, he's been a Hab for like 4 days. Like, he's 18. Like, relax. And that's
there in Shane Wright at 18. Like, that's what I'm saying.
No, I get that. But I also don't think that. And that is something that leans towards Shane Wright. Like, if you're going to go like pros and cons, it's definitely a pro for Shane Wright. But I wouldn't hold it against Slafkovsky for not being like a leader. You know what I mean? Like, it almost feels like. It's going to sound like
again,
that.
We'll see what happens. We could go at this all day. Like we said, we could literally go at this all day. And I think you deep down know, and are like you the whole time leading into the draft wanted Wright. I know you did.
No, 100%. But here's the thing: is the whole time leading into the 2018 draft, I wanted Zadina, and he's done nothing, right? So my whole thing is I don't know. And after that was my kind of,
to be fair, neither's Kotkaniemi.
I mean, if I had to pick one of the two, I'd probably pick Kotkaniemi over Zadina right now for sure.
Now, yeah, maybe.
But
Zadina could also have a breakout season next year, and you could.
100%, and that's like he can still turn it around. But my whole thing is like I don't watch enough of these kids to know. I wish I had the time to do it. I wish I could get paid to do it, but I don't. So, I base my information off the information I get from the Bob McKenzies, the Darren Draggers, and so when Bob McKenzie says 4 to 5 scouts or 5 scouts and 9 scouts said Slafkovsky's the number 1 pick, all right, sure, like I'm gonna back that because I don't have anything better to go with, right?
Yeah.
And look, if I was a scout for the Montreal Canadiens and they asked if the fucking Kent Hughes called me up and said, hey, Gitano, who do you want to fucking draft? I would have told him Shane Wright. I'm not gonna lie to you. Then I would have said, Shane Wright's probably your guy. But they're the ones that interviewed them and talked to them and watched their games and had scouts watching games for, I'm going to assume, a couple years or as much as they can in the last couple years.
Mm-hmm. So
at the end of the day, like, and I'm not ever going to hold it against Slafkovsky. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to shit on him for being the number 1 pick, even if he doesn't turn out. That's it's not on him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see it is, you just doesn't matter who I wanted. We pick Slafkovsky. We back Slafkovsky. End of.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah.
I think we should probably get moving into Leafs and Habs, the rest of the picks.
Yeah.
So the next first-round pick for either of those teams was the Montreal Canadiens selecting another Slovakian kid. I forget his name.
Philip, I don't know how to pronounce it here. It's M-E, and then the S has the accent, and the A has an accent, so I'm going to butcher it. But I'm going to say it's Meshar.
Mishar or something?
Yeah.
Mishar?
We'll figure it out.
It's probably Mishar.
Actually, one of Slafkovsky's childhood friends, so it's sick that they're drafted together. And that was the pick from the Toffoli deal from Calgary.
Yes. So the Leafs did have the 25th overall pick, which they, I honestly couldn't believe it. Like, bravo. Bravo by Kyle Dubas. Like, to be 100% honest with you, they trade down to the 38th pick. So they traded the 25th pick for the 38th pick, which is, as you can do your math there, 13 picks to get rid of 2 years at 3.8 of Peter Mrazek, who I don't know if Leafs fans listening remember last year. He was awful. Like, he was not only subpar, he was injured, and when he wasn't, he looked like actually lost. Like, lost. Yeah. Like, he didn't look like he knew where the posts were most of the season. Like, it was really, really difficult to watch whenever he went in that. Like, to be honest with you, it was one of those, like, oh man, it was hard. But Chicago takes him. 2 years at 3.8 for 13 picks, and there was nobody. I think what happened there, if you want the honest truth, is the Leafs went. They had a couple guys that they really, really did want at 25. They both went before 25. So they decided, you know what? The guy that we want now is still going to be there at 38. Let's see if we can do some wheeling and dealing here. They call it Kyle Davidson.
And the guy you don't want, you can get rid of.
Yeah, so let's see what we can do here. So they call up Kyle Davidson, who I'm seriously convinced, look at me right now. I'm seriously convinced this guy took some acid before the draft on Saturday, or before he made that DeBrincat trade. Was that the day before?
Yeah. So can we sit here and just shit on
he was on
the
a 24-hour long acid trip? I swear to God.
Okay. How do you say that your team, you're going to rebuild? Okay, that's great. And then you don't move Patrick Kane, you don't move Jonathan Toews, you sign
both
Seth
of
Jones
which carry $10 million cap hits, by the way.
Yeah, you signed Seth Jones to a fucking 8x8 or an 8x9 or whatever the fuck he's making.
Yeah, that just kicked in.
Yeah.
It's 8 years from now. Yeah. It's 8 years from now.
Yeah. And then you trade a 24-year-old 40-goal scorer in Alex DeBrincat.
One of the top 10 goal scorers in the league, and he's under 25.
Yeah. So he's traded to Ottawa. Poor him, because that's going to suck for him. And then you trade 21-year-old centerman Kirby Dach, and you trade you acquire the 25th overall pick for a dog shit goalie making way too much money. Like, I don't understand how that's rebuilding at all. Like, well, even a little bit.
If you want the honest truth, I think that might be a ploy, because the only reason that I could, like, if I have watched one game of Peter Mrazek, I know that I'm only want him if my entire purpose is to fail. Like, the whole purpose of next season for them is to fail and get Connor Bedard. That's the whole purpose of next season for them.
I get that, but also at the same time, like, that would be like the Habs this year have like trading like Suzuki and Caulfield to get Shane Wright or Slafkovsky. Like, you're not going to have any pieces for Bedard to play with.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
It's to get rid of DeBrincat and Dach and not really get anything in return. Like, I saw the two picks that they, the two. So it was a first, a second this year, and a third next year. Or no, first a third this year and a third next year for DeBrincat is what it was. So those two picks were not, like, I think one of them was that Kevin Korchinski guy.
Give me 1 second. Yes. So, Kevin Korchinski at 7. They also got Frank Nazar at 13 from Montreal. And then they got Sam Rinzel at 25.
For one of the top 10 goal scorers in the National Hockey League. Take the Frankie Nazar out of there for this one. Let's just talk about what they got for one of the top 10 goal scorers in the NHL and Alex DeBrincat. They got Kevin Korchinski or whatever.
Yeah.
Some guy that we can't even pronounce his name, we never heard of in our lives, and a third next year.
Yeah.
For a top 10 goal scorer in the NHL. Like, that's just poor management. I don't care what that's horrible team management. That's terrible, man.
I know that I always fucking make jokes about, we could do better, but I'm not kidding. I could fucking phone him up and get a multi-million-dollar deal. At the rate that they are conducting business as an organization, I back my chances.
They're going full Arizona fire sale, is what it seems like.
But I don't get it, because you're not trading. Patrick Kane would still bring you in assets. 100%.
Let me ask you, honest to God, if you're GM, if the team, everybody listening, the team that you're a fan of, if your GM has not called Kyle Davidson over the past week, they should be fired.
Man. So the immediate aftermath of the DeBrincat trade was everyone on Twitter going, and from what I saw, for us, it's Montreal and Toronto in our Twitter feed. And it was just everyone was going, Dubas and Kent Hughes need to be fucking on the phone with them right now.
Right now. And both of them were on the phone with them. What do you know? Both of them were on the phone with them.
Yeah. And I mean, for them to say they want...
East them again. Here's what I'm saying. What is it going to take to get Patty Kane out of there? What do you go, I'll give you a first and you're retaining half salary. Is that going to land Patty Kane? A first and a second or something next year?
Yeah.
Is that going to land Patrick fucking Kane?
But here's the thing is, the way that they're conducting business and doing their fucking rebuild is they're not going to trade Patrick Kane. They're literally going to
No, Patrick Kane's not going to stay there. I know he's not. He's going to request a trade.
Oh, I know. But you know what I mean? That's the thing. What if... Because if I'm looking at Chicago and you want to rebuild that team, him and Taves are the first two out the door. Great contributors to the franchise, will go down as legends, probably jerseys in their rafters, but they got to go if you want to rebuild.
If you're looking to rebuild, absolutely. Yeah, it's not DeBrincat.
So the fact that DeBrincat and Dach are the first two guys out,
Well, and then you got to think Hagel went. Hagel was a young guy that they gave away for a couple of firsts.
Well, at least with Hagel, they got a return.
I don't know, man. It's a fire sale over there. Clearly.
Yeah.
Clearly, they're in the current Connor Bedard sweepstakes. That's all they can be thinking about.
Yeah.
That's got to be it. And they've just literally thrown away every every piece of sensibility in their heads.
Yeah.
Because that DeBrincat trade will go down, I think, in history as one of the crazy. I don't praise Ottawa very much, but that was absolute robbery.
Robbery. Here's the thing. Here's the thing with that, Dave, because I'm not going to give Ottawa credit. Because anytime two idiots make a deal, one of the idiots has to win. And in this case, it just happened to be Ottawa.
Yeah. Anyway, so that happened, and because of all of that happening and Kyle Davidson just being on a different planet, the Leafs got rid of the Mrazek deal, which is something that everybody knew needed to happen. Everybody was scared about what it was going to cost us. The Patrick Marleau deal cost us the first-round pick. This one cost us 13 spots in a weak draft.
Yeah.
And I understand that he signed the deal. Kyle Dubas did sign the deal, and it was a bad deal. At the time, I was not that upset about it, but it did end up being a very, very bad contract to sign. But you got to give it to the guy. He gets into these jams, and he gets out of these jams, man. He gets out of these jams very, very, very stealthily. To get out of that Nick Ritchie contract and to land Lyubushkin, who was a big contributor for the team down the stretch, and then to get out of this deal. I just think it's masterful work, to be honest with you. I obviously, you don't want to sign these contracts in the first place, but guess what? Everybody signs these contracts. Josh Anderson's under contract for how much and how long in Montreal?
That's a great question. I want to say he's got maybe 5 years left, and he's around the 5.
Yeah. What's Darnell Nurse's contract? What's Seth Jones' contract?
Seth Jones is making 9. Seth Jones this season, I think, is going to be like the third highest paid player in the league.
That's
or
insane.
Something stupid like that.
That's insane. But yeah, no, it's crazy. Obviously, if you're Kyle Davidson, you got to be thinking right now, I want to move on from the Seth Jones contract, but there is no way that ever happens. You're giving up everything to get rid of that contract.
Even if you retain 50% of that, who wants Seth Jones at $4.5 million? I don't.
For 8 years.
Yeah.
You're going to retain that for 8 years? No. Anyway, so that opens up some options on the goaltending front for the Toronto Maple Leafs, because now we have more cap space for a goaltender. Yep. I think I think Kyle Dubas is very, very confident. I don't know how confident I am because I've seen this bite teams in the ass, including the Maple Leafs in the past. They're very confident going in with Shelgren, a mix of Shelgren and Woll, or Shelgren or Woll, whoever kind of plays better.
Yeah.
That is going to be the backup. We're not going and trying to spend another $3.8 million on a 3-year deal for another Peter Mrazek. It's not happening. No. Because that's what the Peter Mrazek deal was, right? Is once Campbell and Freddie went down, we had no depth, 0 depth. So that's what we panicked and went and signed Mrazek. That's how that deal came to be. So now that they've had to pay and lucked out getting out of it, I think they are kind of at a point where they are just going to say, fuck it. We're just going to run it with an $800,000 goalie and hope it works. Because that means we might be able to spend a little bit more on the starter.
And I mean, eventually you do want to get one of Shelgren or Woll into the NHL, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, and so Shelgren played great last year.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
the time that he played,
long as
he played really good last year as well.
Yeah, I would say as long as he doesn't end up in the Montembeault situation and Caden Primo situation last year, the Habs had, where he was getting too much exposure, too early. As long as you can kind of manage his game time, and the thing is, having both of them is you can flip them kind of back and forth to the AHL as you need them. Yeah, I think that'll be fine.
Yeah, and the good thing about it, like you said, is now, hopefully the Montreal Canadiens goaltending situation's a little more stable this year.
Hopefully, yeah.
You're not going to need to thrust these kids into playing for, like you said, either the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Montreal Canadiens. Being a goalie for them is harder than being a goalie for any of the other 30 teams. It's just that simple.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would say some other teams, like the Rangers might be another one, but they've had 3 decades of just stellar goaltending, so
yeah.
Apparently not. But yeah. Now, this morning, Darren Dreger tweeted that there were friendly conversations between Jack Campbell and Kyle Dubas, so Jack Campbell's representative and Kyle Dubas. Yeah. But they were 0% productive, no production whatsoever. Hey, there's Matty Beniers out at the game as well. But anyway, so no talks on the Campbell front, no production on the talks in the Campbell front, and apparently now, and this is what I mean, you get out from the Mrazek contract, and now the Leafs are apparently in intense talks with the Ottawa Senators to acquire Matt Murray. who is got another, I believe, 3 years at 5.6 question mark 5.6, I think.
So it's in that ballpark. I want to say it's 5.5
in front of me
yeah.
at the moment, but which I just don't fully understand. Like, if you're going to get out from the Mrazek contract, why the hell are you taking another one in right now? Because Matt Murray has been pitiful for 2 years in Ottawa. He wasn't good before he went there. When he signed that contract, everybody was like, what the hell are you doing?
The only thing I could think is if Ottawa's going to retain some salary, that helps.
But what's his? What did you look it up?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. Give me a second.
Okay.
Yeah, so 6.25 for the next 2 years.
2 years, 6.25. Oh my fuck.
So, like I said, if Ottawa is retaining salary, that's helpful.
Yeah, if we can get him on like $3 million for the next 2 years, but you also, I just don't want Matt Murray. I also want Connor Brown.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's got to be some sweetener in there for sure.
There's got to be some sweetener for the Leafs in there, and I don't think that Dubas will do it unless there is. If he does, I won't understand it.
And I'm looking right now at free agent goaltenders, and obviously they could still trade with someone, but like, you really don't have many options in the market right now outside of Jack Campbell. Like, if you're not going to sign Jack
Darcy Kemper are the two options, because Vanacek went to New Jersey, so they're out.
Well, I'm looking.
Georgiev went to Colorado.
I'll give you the top 7 on Cap Friendly right now. So this is accurate as of today. It's Kemper, Greiss, Martin Jones, Holtby, but he might be retiring. He's been struggling with. I saw that he's been struggling with lower body injuries. He might be retiring. Then it's Campbell at 5, Halak, Riddick, Copley, Delia, and Malcolm Subban round out the top 10.
See, like, I wouldn't be upset with, like, and this is throwing what I said about having Shelgren and Woll develop in the league out the window, but I wouldn't mind like Halak and then trade for Matt Murray.
Yeah, if you run a
if
Halak,
you can get
Murray
Halak at like 1.5 or 2, and then you run Matt Murray and you get him at salary retained, and then you also add a Connor Brown in there, that gives you a lot of cap space to go out and fill up the rest of your roster. And
I'd like to point out. So last year Halak's cap hit was 1.5 mil. So
there you go. So I'd like to think, to be 100% honest with you, that it's possible to do it with that kind of goaltending, because the Colorado Avalanche just won a Stanley Cup with a struggling Darcy Kemper, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, to be fair, he was like blinded, like.
Yeah, but he was struggling, right? Yeah. So if you can put together a strong enough defense core in front of him, or in front of the two of them, Matt Murray and Halak, and then you also have Woll and Shelgren if somebody gets hurt, or if somebody's playing subpar, or whatever it may be. That I wouldn't be upset about. The one thing that would worry me about that is I'm not confident in Matt Murray's compete level anymore. He used to have it when he was in Pittsburgh, won cups. Right?
He's got 2 cup rings to prove it.
Yeah, but past couple years in Ottawa, it's almost like he doesn't want to play. Like,
so I'm never going to accuse an NHL player of not wanting to play. But yeah, he's not looked engaged. 100% there. Yeah.
He hasn't looked engaged at all. There's been a couple
and also like
pictures of him that have come out like from like press conferences, and maybe it's just bad angles, but he actually looks like he's dying. Like,
I was the other thing is, look, if I was playing for the Ottawa Senators, had to live in Ottawa, I'd be pretty upset too. I'd be dying. Like, you know, that's a not good team to be playing the goalie for, right? Doesn't matter who you are. Like, they have not been good since he's been there, and they were not good before then too. But he really didn't help any matters there. Just kind of made them worse.
Yeah. Okay. Apologize for the technical difficulties, but we're back now. I do remember the thought that I was on, though, and I was talking about having a little bit of extra cap space to work with, just because of a potential like because of the Mrazek contract being out, and then a potential deal. Like I said, you have Halak and you have a guy like Matt Murray as a 1-2, which I'm not overly confident in. Like, don't get me wrong, but that allows you the ability to sign a guy. Like, just imagine this. Imagine a line with John Tavares, William Nylander, and Andre Palat.
Yeah. I've actually heard a lot of Palat rumors in the last little bit, and man.
To me, that would be spectacular.
He's about to make bank.
What do you think he's about to make?
Oh, he's about to make a fuck ton of money. I don't know.
What are the rumors?
Who's gonna... What?
What are the rumors for the cost on Palat?
I haven't heard rumors for cost. I've just heard that basically every team in the league wants him.
Yeah.
So it's going to end up being a bidding war, and he is going to make bank.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money that he's going to make for sure. Well, that's just a thought. Maybe not Palat. Maybe another guy who had a great year. Maybe Nichushkin. Like, something like that. Just somebody to play with those two, because let me tell you, there were, like, think about this, man. The Leafs had the best season in team history, franchise history last year. We had a guy who won the Hart, a guy who won the Ted Lindsay. We had, like, so much good stuff to talk about last year. And it seems like all we have this offseason are problems. We have no goaltending. The defense is thin again, of course. Cap hell, like, just always everything. There's never anything right. Spezza retires. That he's gone. Like, Mikheyev gone. Engvall's going to get qualified. They're still not sure if they're going to qualify Kasha. They're kind of in the same situation as they were with that Boston was last year with them, where it's like this guy cannot stay healthy. Like, we love him as a hockey player, but he just can't. He literally refuses to not play like a kamikaze. He plays like an actual maniac. Like, he puts himself in so many vulnerable positions, and as a guy with concussion history, he should stop doing that. Yeah. He really should stop doing that. Like, he's going to ruin the rest of his life.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. But, so it's just, and all the way down on the list somehow is the fact that we need somebody to play with Tavares and Nylander. Like, we really, really do. They were awful at points last year.
Who was it for most of last year? Mikheyev?
Oh, it was an absolute carousel, man. There was Kerfoot up there. That kid Abruzzese got a shot up there. Robertson got a shot up there. Engvall had a shot up there. Like, it was terrible because they couldn't get going 5-on-5. They literally could not get going 5-on-5 at all. All of both of the points came on the power play. Every single one almost.
Can I throw like a hypothetical at you?
Sure.
So you're not going to break up Matthews Marner, right? That's
not happening. No, Matthews Marner Bunting's one of the best lines in NA.
Yeah. Bunting's the third. I always think the Leafs is like the two pairings, right? It's Matthews Marner and Tavares Nylander.
Fair, of course.
If you can't get Tavares Nylander going, do you trade one of them?
Well, you're not trading William Nylander because he's got one of the better value contracts in the league.
Yeah.
You are not going to be able to trade John Tavares at an $11 million cap hit. Not going to happen, my friend.
I mean, at 50% retained and maybe a bit of sweetener, like.
Why would we retain salary? That we are not in a position to be retaining salary, dude.
To get him out, you know what I mean? Because you're not going to move the whole 11.
No. We'd rather have John Tavares than have $5 million in dead cap, for sure. Or almost $6 million in dead cap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the Leafs are not a team that can afford to eat half of an $11 million salary. There's no way. And I don't think that, like, Tavares, like, all this talk about Tavares falling off, guys, point a game last year.
Oh no, I'm not saying he's like bad or like you have to trade him, but like if you can't get that pair to like click, you know what I mean? Because it kind of was a thing all season that they
couldn't get going 5-on-5. They just couldn't.
Yeah, like that's it. Like they were playing well, but they weren't like rolling the way Matthews and Marner were, right?
Matthews, Marner, and Bunting were just absolutely on one all year.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, there's a lot of questions to be had. I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I'm not Kyle Dubas.
Nope.
But I trust Kyle Dubas. I do.
So I feel the same in Montreal. We still have a lot of things. So Carey Price's health is obviously number one.
What hurts more, if Carey Price is healthy or if he's hurt.
Hurt, because anytime you have Carey Price playing, look, Carey Price playing is always going to be a positive thing. Always.
I can see where you're coming from a nostalgic factor, but dude, that is a lot of cap space. That is a lot of cap space.
It is, but he is also one of the best goalies in the league. So,
well, we don't know that anymore. He was. We can't say.
Look, so I'm going to go from the last time that we've seen him. So the big playoff run where he was, if the Habs win the Cup, the Conn Smythe winner by a landslide.
Yeah, how was his regular season though, and how were the 3 regular seasons prior to that?
But
not
I don't
good.
I don't want to say the regular.
Good.
I don't want to say the regular season doesn't matter, but when it comes to crunch time, like that's when you get the. I feel that's when you get the true measure of a goalie. Like if they're gonna fucking turn it on, and play, whatever it is, almost 30 straight games, because we didn't use our backup goal. Jake Allen didn't see a minute of ice time in the playoffs. If you're gonna play, whatever it is, 20. Well, max is 28 games. But if you're gonna play as close to that in a row as possible and be at that level, like that, I'm gonna say that is one of the best goalies in the league. And obviously we don't know where he's at in terms of the injury. The couple of games he played, the team was fucking dog shit in front of him at the end of the season. I think he only played in 3 or 4. But look, if he is healthy and playing hockey, that is always going to be a good thing for the Montreal Canadiens. Always.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, we'll see if that's something that maybe a contending team is looking for at the end of the year next year. Like maybe like that to me is a very, very interesting prospect is Carey Price at $5 million, half retained. And then you get an agreement almost from them at that point where it's like, listen, we're picking up at the trade deadline. We're going to pay you the $5 million, but you're retiring after this year because we're not paying you anymore after that.
Yeah, and yeah, he's still a couple years left on the deal. But yeah, I think, and even if, because obviously this rebuild we're not fucking gonna be competing for the playoffs in the next couple of years. That's just how rebuilding works. But even if him, playing allows us that time to let a guy like Caden Primo or a guy like Sam Montembeault kind of develop a little more, I think that is also a good thing. Because Caden Primo is still super young, definitely still needs at least another season in the AHL, probably 2. So I mean, even if Carey Price buys him those 2 years to develop and get better, I still think that's a win. And then also just having that guy in the organization, if let's just say Jake Allen's hurt and Caden Primo has to come up as the backup to be, on the ice training with him, working with him like that close, I think is going to be great.
Yeah. Well,
so
it's going to be an interesting off season here.
It's going to be a hell of an off season. So the free agency opens on Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll see what happens there. We've talked about everything that the Leafs need anyway.
Yeah.
The Habs probably aren't going to be a big player in free agency, I wouldn't imagine, but
yeah, I don't expect us to. I would expect probably just some older guys on short-term deals to just kind of fill the roster out as we kind of retool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't expect anything crazy from us, but I also said that at the trade deadline and we had a shitstorm, and I also didn't expect the Romanov Kirby Dach trade coming down at the draft. So
yeah. Well, that'll be it for us here this week. I think we covered a lot of bases today.
Yeah, this is supposed to be a nice quick episode that turned into an hour. Whoops.
Whoops. Well, a little less than an hour because we did have that little bit of space in there, and you're gonna have to edit that out. That should be fun for you.
Oh, it's gonna be a great time, Ave.
Yeah. Anyway, we will be off. We will see you again. Are we gonna do one next week? Probably not, unless something big happens in free agency.
Yeah, I'd say unless there's
the Leafs trade for fucking Andre Vasilevsky or something. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Unless fucking Wednesday is a complete shit show, I don't think so. But yeah, we will we'll probably get a couple episodes in over the off season as things happen.
Yeah, as big things happen.
Yeah, just so we don't end up with a 3-hour season preview episode.
Yeah, exactly. In saying that, thank you for listening. And
Yeah.
as always, go Blue Jays.
Yeah, and just a quick thank you for your support all season. We appreciate that. You guys make doing this a lot more fun than just me and him talking to each other. So thank you for all the support on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, also on the YouTube channel. We're doing good numbers there. Just thank you for everyone and everything.
Yeah, and on TGEM. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is it for us. We will talk to you guys when we talk to you. And ciao for now.